On Collective Memory by Maurice Halbwachs. Edited, translated, and with an introduction by Louis A. Koser. Published by the University of Chicago Press. Introduction. Maurice Halbwachs, 1877–1945. Maurice Halbwachs was arguably the most important figure of the second generation of Durkheimians in the interwar years. He not only contributed important papers and books in an amazing variety of sociological research, but continued the Durkheimian tradition in a creative manner. Although Halbwachs was a fairly orthodox Durkheimian, his admiration for Durkheim stimulated him nevertheless to develop his own creativity rather than be stifled by it, as was the case with some other members of the Durkheimian school. He was one of the first French sociologists to perceive the importance of such foreign scholars as Weber, Pareto, Veblen, and Schumpeter, to whom he devoted long scholarly essays, thus helping his French colleagues to overcome their parochial concentration on homegrown intellectual products. As I shall show in some detail later, he was an accomplished statistician, co-authoring among other things an introduction to probability theory. He did statistical studies on such topics as the trend of wages in various national settings and comparative urban and rural suicide rates. He did studies of stratification, human ecology, and urban sociology, to mention but a few topics that attracted his ever-curious mind. Large samples of these writings were translated into English and are accessible to American readers. Halbwach's work in the sociology of knowledge, however, in my estimation, his most important contribution to sociological thought, mostly, has not been available in English. I am encouraged in my high opinion of his work in this field by the fact that it coincides with Halbwach's own view of himself. In a 1934 interview with the American sociologist Earl E. Eubank, Halbwachs reportedly called The Social Frameworks of Memory so far my most important work. Halbwachs wrote two other contributions to the sociology of knowledge. One is
La topographie légendaire des évangiles en Terre Sainte,
a brilliant study of the spatial infrastructure of the New Testament, in which he examines the part played by pilgrims, crusaders, and others in establishing and changing the topography of the Holy Land. A translation of the conclusions of this work is included in this volume, as is the major part of the book on the social frameworks of memory. The other is the collective memory. Unfortunately, this posthumous work, in which Halbwachs attempted to deal with some of the objections of critics of his earlier work on the subject, is akin to a skeleton. One may doubt that the author himself would have been willing.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?